All right, Shan, I got some clips for you for this guy, Todd Phillips. So I believe him to be the same type as me from what I can tell. Slightly handsome guy, slightly weird, slightly dorky, bad jokes. You know the deal. So he's made a bunch of movies, a lot of which I hate, and some of which I kind of like the War Dogs one, that one. I won't watch that one because the guy's too much of a complainer in the movie, just my FI.
Okay.
The Hangover stuff, I never watched those, never liked that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just kind of my FI report on his FI report.
So all these movies are low SE humor.
Right, yeah,
which makes me very much cringe, and I can't handle it for a long period
Exactly. That's kind of one reason why I've never really liked his movies too much or stayed away from him. All right, so some clips that I have of him, it's him talking with the Mikey guy in the black and white videos or whatever.
Mikey guy. Oh, yeah. Some other INTJ.
Some other INTJ. So they will get into just slightly talking about, control chaos because eventually it has to go that way or whatever.
Right.
But it's great because the regular INTJ guy, the TE guy, he's looking at the NF of he's like, so you kind of lie to people or manipulate people in your directing, and they're kind of double-deciding about it. He's like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
In directing, I gotta kind of bullshit with people. So watch for that in the clips
Trolling,
in particular.
The NF troll. Okay.
But I wonder if that comes from an experience that you had as a kid or at some point in your life where you had an experience at a movie theater that really stuck with you and you saw it as special.
I've had a lot of special experiences at movie theaters, and I come from the school of the movie theater as church sort of thing. I wasn't brought up religious, but the movie theater was our church or temple or whatever. And I remember going to see Eddie Murphy's Raw. I was probably 12 years old or something, and seeing it in a theater full, and literally I remember this one woman, he said something and she ran up to the screen and touched the screen and ran back to her seat. And it's particularly as a comedy filmmaker, it's so additive seeing a film. When you see The Hangover with 400 people at the Universal City Walk, and you watch Hangover on HBO, even if it's your first time watching it, it's just not, I don't care what anybody says, it's not the same experience.
I don't care.
There's an electricity to seeing a movie and everyone laughing at the same time. And that goes for horror movies and everyone jumping at the same time and everyone crying at the same moment in a great drama. You can't match that or replicate that at home. You could replicate screen size and you could replicate resolution and you could replicate all that bullshit, but you can't replicate the crowd experience. And that's the only thing to me that separates us right now from every other thing that we're competing with, whether it's the internet, whether it's great television, of which there is so much of, whether it's Pokemon Go. I don't even know what that is, but I don't know why I said that, because I have no idea what that is.
So he's talking about the famous FI story of I went to the movies and I got inspired by the movies and I really locked onto it, so I want to keep reproducing that, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the famous FI story.
Yeah.
All right, so this next clip is going to be talking about him with control and chaos, and notice how the feminine OI is kind of enjoying the chaos. It's the most wiggly of the OIs. You get the masculine SI on one side, and then you'd have feminine NI way on the opposite side of the most sloppy form of control.
Okay.
Well, I wondered if that confidence, is that something you sort of learn? How do you set a tone on the film so that people will go where you want to go? And
it's really one of the key things about directing, and this is not my quote, I've read this, but it's the truest quote. It's really important to set the tone of the movie on the set of the movie, because that sense finds its way into the film. So what's the tone of my movies? Well, it's mayhem. You come to our set, and it does feel a little bit like the inmates are running the asylum. And it's not that we don't know what we're doing, we really do, but we like this kind of loose vibe of what if we do it over there? Let's just fuck it. I know we set up to shoot it here, but let's just fucking shoot it over there. And it's this sense, I remember Robert Downey telling me on Due Date, he's like, I've never been on a movie, I feel like I'm on a student film. It's 8 people making this movie, and yeah, we have a big crew, but when you come on, it's a really intimate set, weirdly. I find that you want to make it that the actors are really comfortable, to be vulnerable, because there's nothing harder than acting, and especially in comedies. So often you're trying something that doesn't work, but you want them to feel free to try that and then not go, what the fuck was that? You just go, all right, let's do another one where blah, blah, blah. So there's just this really sort of renegade and loosey-goosey thing we try to keep with the movies.
Did you say loosey-goosey more than once?
Okay, so there's a lot of things that I see there that I'm like, oh my God, that's what it's like living with you. But the thing that seems to trump everything is the NF. I care about the vibe and I care about where this is going. I then wiggle through whatever I need to get to where it's going. The thing that I do see with the feminine and I is you guys are the most chaotic I've ever seen, because the plan does shift and move.
Yeah.
The thing that you still will see with this guy that he probably is less aware of in his own self is how fucking controlling he is on every single random thing. He's still human need. So you're like watching for the human need versus the person's perspective of themselves.
Right.
I guarantee you, he's right. It does move. It does do this. It is loosey-goosey. It does go from thing to thing.
When it comes to some things.
But like that guy probably goes to every camera, touches it, controls it, touches it, controls it, touches the lighting, controls it,
Adjust the fans.
Constantly, probably randomly controlling things. But when it comes to the overall bigger picture, he's probably like, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, we could do this, which would be traumatizing for somebody like Robert Downey Jr., who has masculine SI. Is that who he's talking about? That would be traumatizing if you have masculine demon SI. You're like, can we get a fucking schedule that doesn't move? This is traumatizing me.
Can we get some ST in here?
Right.
With the Hangover movies, even though they're flat out comedies for sure, we would fuck around with the tone of those movies too. Where The Hangover, even the first one, is a genuine mystery going on too.
For sure,
yeah. Generally like messed up moments that are nothing to do with being funny, and Hangover, and they got progressively darker to most people's chagrin, but to my delight. But no, they definitely got darker. So again, I didn't see it as that big of a leap. But listen, all you are as a director ultimately is the purveyor of tone, as you kind of alluded to before. So this is definitely a trickier tone than what I've done before because of that balance with comedy and drama.
I think you said something like...
So he's got the darkness thing. I would put that clip in there because it's like he likes going down the darkness lane, even though everybody else doesn't like it. And then that like doubles down that he likes it more. And like kind of like processing that, why like masculine FI does it. I see that in myself and my type or whatever. Yeah. It's like compared to like the masculine TI, where I think the masculine TIs really enjoy building something and engineering something that is completely impossible to figure out. Like we have these new blinds where there's no strings. You don't pull the string to have the blind go up. You just like the blind just magically goes up. Yeah. And I ended up trying to like adjust one or take some slats out, and the twing, and it got all fucked off. And I like open up in the head rail and just see this gear system that I spent a solid like 2 days on it, and I've installed blinds for 5 years, and in my 20s, I have no idea how the thing works.
Right.
And I know there's some TI guy somewhere like, yes!
That's that.
Yes! You couldn't figure it out. You couldn't fix it. You don't know. That's how good my engineering is. I'm glad that I pissed off the TE, so I see that. I get that.
Yeah,
and I know
sure.
I feel that way with the masculine FI. It's like I can go all the way down the depths of hell and thrive in negative emotions, and you can't. And then there's a kind of a, I'm cool about that. Or whatever.
Right.
The lying is an essential skill in making documentaries, and I read it as sort of the same kind of hustle you have to do to get a script made, or the same kind of hustle to get a product into an investor's office for a
maybe
for a
manipulation
pitch.
is a better word. There's a certain amount of manipulation involved in directing. But I do remember on the first day of walking into this documentary class at NYU, taught by this woman, Christine Choi, no joke. She said, first rule of documentary films. She goes, lie. Lie to everyone. She goes, lie to me. I'm going to lie to you. She goes, and if somebody comes to me and says, why did you tell your students to lie? She goes, I'll lie and say I didn't. And it's just very much about getting the thing that, you're not changing the message. You're just getting it done in a much more economic way.
Economic way, non-ST way.
Also energy saving.
Yeah.
Because like the thing that I see for you is you refuse to tell somebody directly what to do. That's what STs do, especially, like my function.
Too many contradictions, and then you're held responsible.
And that's what I see is like every single ST, this is all of us, some have it worse than others. Some have varying degrees of like, oh my God, please stop.
ST syndrome.
ST syndrome, which is spell it the fuck out for me. Now that's sensory and thinking, the SFs do this as well. But it's like, if you don't spell it the fuck out for me, I refuse to move. I won't jump even a little bit. You need to tell me exactly how this works or I won't move. It's like, it's like so belligerent. And the NF, who's like connecting dots, like if I say this, that's not accurate because things change, things do move. And that depends on your state, which nobody's responsible for. Like, if your emotions are off and I tell you the exact ST of this thing, your emotions will change the next day, by the way, and that thing will no longer be true.
Right.
So you're like, okay, yes, exactly that. And then you just start trolling because you're like, I just need the person to move in this moment because they're being so belligerent and refusing to take any ownership. Therefore, you know what? Masculine ST. I'll go like a masculine ST. This is what it is.
A quick ST example of that would be like, say he's trying to get somebody in a movie where it's like, hey, you might need to cry or be emotional. Okay, so do you want tears or no tears? Do you want 3 tears or 1 tear? So it's like, hey, look, you set up the scene, you get the emotional run at it, you kind of figure it out as you go. Okay, so you want me to cry or not cry? And that's where the NFs will be like, I'm gonna start fucking with you now. Because this is a kind of a gray area.
I think of that scene between Miles Teller and Ana de Armas where she plays his wife and she's asking him to stop lying. Mm-hmm. And it's such an insight into the male mind of control.
Yes, and
thinking,
control of information.
Control of information, thinking you can pull that, you can still get out of it.
Yes.
I just wonder if when you write a scene like that and you pull that off, if that's a different kind of satisfaction to you than something chaotic.
And
Or out of
it's really
control.
funny that you bring up that scene, because that scene to me was the most daunting scene of the whole movie, and I probably didn't even articulate it in my head the way you just did, and that's probably why I was always going like, oh, we got that scene tomorrow, next week, that's a tough one, and da-da-da. Why is that tough, Will? Because I've never done anything like that scene before,
Yeah.
you're right.
I've never
After
done
that,
that
I do
before.
remember being like, boy, I really think we got that. I think we really nailed that scene. She's phenomenal in it, Miles is great, so there was a satisfaction, that's true.
Okay, all right, let's back up a little bit. So this is like all of the video typing. It's like, just talk for an hour, and if you're in the room with an IJ with another IJ, and you're both lead NI, we're going to eventually start talking about control chaos, are we not?
not.
And then one of them's going to start going, it's going to set the other one off. One thing I noticed with the NIFI versus the NITE
Yeah.
is like, what I appreciate, and this is exactly what he just kind of said, he's like, oh, I never thought of it that way or said it that way.
Yeah.
Is like the TE will have a clarity to it. You know,
Right.
they can think through the logic, and I feel like with the FI, it's like I'll feel very vague or fuzzy. Like I can feel it or know it for myself, but I can't really articulate it.
Yeah, I feel like the FI can't explain things well.
Right. You know, why are you controlling? Oh, it's because
I'm a male.
Because I'm
I
a male.
have a male mind. I know.
I'm
that.
Italian. That's why I'm controlling. No,
Every
that's why I have a
time-
bad temper. I'm Italian.
Like,
Why are you
what
slow?
about the other guys?
I'm slow because my grandpa was Canadian. That's why I'm slow. Right? We could go on.
I'm just like, I have a list in my head where I just like I can't stand hearing all the excuses of why I'm controlling. What about the last 500 people that you've interviewed that were not OI, we're not an IJ, and we're not the male mind of control, and are just super fucking chaotic? What about those guys?
And we ended up talking about control again.
Delete.